At Divorce Right, we provide training for HR professionals, for company supervisors, and we provide divorce coaching and case management, providing guidance and direction that your divorcing employee so desperately needs. And normally, I'd be introducing you to my amazing partner in this, Paulette Rigo. She is unable to join us today, but together we tackle the biggest disruptor in your company, and that is divorce. And as a reminder, we have SHRM credits for SHRM members, and we'll post a link at the end of this broadcast so that you can grab your credits. And today we are talking about co-parenting challenges for your employees, and we'll give you real world tips and techniques on how you can help your employees that are trying to manage, such a challenging situation. So I want to introduce you to our guest today. Her name is Teresa Harlow. Teresa is a co-parenting coach. She's a credentialed family mediator and a professional speaker, and a best-selling author of the book Combative to Collaborative: The Co-Parenting Code. Personally, Teresa has been a co-parent and step-parent for over 20 years. Professionally, she spent over 3 decades in business leading individuals and large teams to reconcile combative behaviors, embrace collaboration, and achieve feats that they thought impossible. Now she works with individuals, families, and professionals who serve them to take collaborative co-parenting from being the exception to being the expectation. Well, Teresa, thank you so much for joining us today. And just before this call, you sent a study called "It Is Just Good Business: The Case for Supporting Reform in Divorce Court" by Rebecca Love Corliss. And it talks about the importance of employers to support their employees during divorce, and the return on that investment of $3 to every dollar spent in an employee EAP plan for dealing with divorce and relationship breakups. So I want to get your opinion on that. That was an amazing thing. I'm reaching out to the author and the publisher, and hopefully we will put that article in on our website and in the comments after we get that approval, because it's really awesome. So why don't you tell us your thoughts on that? It was a little scary in some areas.
Well, I just got it this morning. It was forwarded to me by a colleague, and I thought, oh, it's going to be one of those academic research papers. And then I dug into it, and I was like, oh, this is good information that employers need to be aware of, because
Absolutely.
as you mentioned, that return on the investment for investing in the co-parents is threefold.
Yeah.
So, that's enlightening in itself. And the study also touches on some of the things that the court actions that they're working through to try to improve and reduce the conflict in the court process. Because so much of what happens with co-parents in particular, and this is something we'll talk about today, is that a lot of what we think about when we think about divorce is up to the decree, right? Up until that divorce is settled and it's just done in court.
Right, because
But
it's all over at that point, right? There's
right,
nothing to be dealt with after that's done,
well,
right?
right. Unless you're a parent who's divorcing, and then it goes on forever. I mean, a lot of people think they can just get through to the children being grown out of the house, but frankly, it's for the rest of your life, because after that you have college graduations, you have weddings, you have grandchildren, and so you're going to be
You've got
dealing
life.
with this.
You've
Right,
got life.
right.
So what are some of the unique challenges divorced and solo parents face over their peers who are still together?
Well, when you're a divorced parent versus just, say, someone that stays together, you have multiple homes that you're parenting your child across. You have a lot more schedules to take in. And so when it comes to being a reliable employee, for instance, you're at a little bit of the mercy of hoping that other parent keeps their commitments, say to your parenting plan, your parenting time, and that doesn't always happen. So that's a challenge that a lot of co-parents deal with. Additionally, the financial burdens, as Nicole Noonan touched on in your episode last week,
Mhm.
um, run the gamut of everything from now you have a single income household for some period of time in most cases to just the financial burdens that come along with court cases. If you get into an extended child support or child custody battle, that can go on for years.
Right.
Emotional stresses then stem from those things, and you suffer everything from challenging communications to just having these ongoing questionable commitments. You're never sure if you can count on the plan that you've laid out and whether you'll be able to execute it. In some more severe cases, you can face safety concerns. If there was domestic violence involved, you could have been abandoned by a parent and not have that support of another parenting team member.
Right.
Or you could be in that scenario, and I hear this way too much, where you're being alienated from your child. Let's say you had an agreement to share parenting, to have parenting time with your child, but the other parent doesn't keep that commitment and doesn't let you see your child. So parental alienation is on the rise. And there's a lot of research around an understanding that children do better when both parents continue to stay engaged in their life. From there, you've also got the solo parents.
Mhm.
And all the problems we just talked about are just compounded because of that loss of support they have from another parent on the other side. Even if there is conflict involved, there's another head count, if you will, to help to shuttle a child to practices or share burdens financially. So that just compounds the issue. And then as life goes on, people get recoupled, they might start blended families. And now you've got even more homes and more schedules to deal with in order to just manage your life.
Yeah, that is certainly a challenge, for the child too, when there's new family members, not just that your parents are divorced, but there's new family members that they have to manage and deal with.
Right.
And, I want to get back to that report, because what we do here and what we see here with what we do at divorce crisis, we see this as a win-win because a divorcing employee loses about 40% of their productivity before, during, and after their divorce, up to about an average of about 5 years, which is tremendously expensive to the business. And 10% of divorcing employees quit. So, what are the main impacts on on a business as a result of parents getting a divorce?
So of course, and the study mentions the increase in absenteeism, which can ultimately lead to turnover.
Mhm.
Um, and during all this additional stress and time away from work potentially, which can stem years beyond that divorce decree. I like to keep that in everybody's mind when we're talking about the parents. Impacts to the job quality, their performance overall, their productivity, if they're in that type of role, continues to be stressed by these other factors in their life. And for those that are dealing with emotional conflicts that they're managing across these multiple households and family members, that that amount of emotion can spill over into the workplace. They could encounter interpersonal issues with coworkers and all the types of things that come with that impact a team working together more collaboratively as well. And with all these things going on in their life, especially in the early stages when they're figuring it out, or when new members are suddenly thrust into the equation, such as a new partner for an ex-spouse, or maybe you have a new partner, uh, there's a lot of distractions. So that can lead to less engagement when you need them most to be engaged or to be focused. And in the most severe cases, safety can be an issue if you're not providing means for preventing access by, say, a former spouse at the person's place of employment, or just from those emotions, them lashing out at someone at the place of employment could become issues. So it's good to have plans around that.
Well, and that's when you talk about safety issues. One of the big side effects of going through a divorce is presenteeism. And presenteeism is when you're physically you're physically at your desk, or you're physically on the line, or you're physically, doing whatever it is that you do, right? And you physically are present, but your mind is elsewhere. And if
Absolutely.
you are working on a line where you're building airplanes, or, working for the government, building tanks, or God, bombs. I mean,
Right.
this is real world stuff here.
Sure.
And they make one mistake because they're not paying attention, because they're so distracted. Because I know that you talked about distractions. They're so distracted by everything that's going on in their life that safety issues go into not only them as an employee putting themselves at risk, but also putting the integrity of the product at,
Right.
right?
I mean, that's so important to think. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned it, Vicky, because in my corporate life, I didn't choose a career where life and death was at risk if
Right.
I screwed up or didn't finish my job. In fact, I used that to kind of manage my own stress over not getting a job done on a particular day. But I can't imagine the focus and stress and stresses that it places on you when there's no margin for error. I
Yeah.
often thought about, someone that's developing some type of missile system or,
Right?
rocket science or whatever.
Here's one, that I don't know if people are very familiar, but a very high rate of divorce is in the casino and gambling world. Imagine you're one of these hotels in Vegas, or any of the Indian uh, casinos that are around the country.
Yeah.
Imagine missing the mark on paying out somebody sitting there at your table.
Oh,
As
right.
right? As a dealer. It's not in so and this brings me to how we help, how people like you help. How does co-parenting coaching help divorced parents in this process?
Well, so, it depends kind of on what phase you're in, what type of help you're seeking in terms of a divorcing parent, right? When you're coming through the divorce, you're trying to figure out how to divide everything up and all of those things. You can use either mediation services or you can use a co parent coach. And as a co parent coach myself, I help them to create a parenting plan that covers everything like living arrangements, parenting time, communication, how they'll split up child expenses and track them. And very importantly, how they make decisions around that child, whether we're talking their education, the activities they participate in, or their healthcare needs.
Mhm.
Um, but beyond the parenting planning piece, a co-parent coach can get into, and I do in my practice, I get into helping parents to correct course when
Mhm.
they aren't on the same page and bringing them back to center by helping them identify the behaviors that are driving that conflict. A lot of people feel helpless and that there's no hope. They just can't do this when conflicts arise. But I help them to uncover those behaviors that are driving it, and then to ultimately develop a strategy to either diffuse or redirect that conflict to more productive interactions together. I do it I prefer to do my coaching with both parents engaged. That's ideal, but that's not always possible. And it doesn't mean that someone can't get co parent coaching, because a lot of times just being aware of how to redirect that stuff that's coming at you can go a long way to turn the tide.
Right.
And in addition to helping someone to address all of those parenting needs, there's all the emotional stuff we talked about, right? And the physical challenges. When you're a co-parent, let's say even if you have your child every other week, which that was my arrangement with my ex-husband, we would be on 1 week, off 1 week. That week where I had my son was very exhausting physically, emotionally, and I helped them to develop strategies to manage their life better around this co-parenting lifestyle, if you will. And if you don't mind, I can touch a little bit more on how co-parent coaching differs from mediation.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah. I think
because
that
I
that's
think,
yeah. And also maybe even from mental health, because people, I think, get those confused.
yeah, and look, I'm not, excuse me, I'm not a mental health professional.
Right.
I derive my expertise in this from having lived it and having overcome the challenges that I faced, and also having helped many other parenting couples to do the same, and solo parents to do the same. Um, in the realm of mediation, I have my mediation credentials, as you mentioned at the beginning. The biggest difference that I would say, well, there's two main differences. One is that the mediator seeks to not give solutions to the parents, but provoke them to develop their own solutions, which is great. And I also seek to do that even in my coaching um, assistance. However, when they haven't thought of some things, I like to augment what they may be thinking of doing when they've maybe become stuck with other experiences that I've seen work with other parents. And so I can bring new ideas to them, whereas a mediator really doesn't get into that type of realm. They stick to letting the parents develop those solutions. So it's just an additional layer of assistance. Um, the other big difference is the duration and the timing of when a mediator would engage versus when a co-parent coach would engage. Most of mediation, but not all, they come back after a divorce decree is finalized and re-engage for mediation. But it's a very short engagement. We're talking, 1 to maybe 5 on the outside number, 5 sessions with a mediator to resolve whatever conflict. In co-parent coaching, I can start working with a parent before they even start the divorce process, all through that divorce uh, situation until the decree, and then years after, if needed, to continue to coach them on how to do better at co-parent coaching or at co-parenting.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Well,
those are, and one other thing I'd say that a coach does is gets into some other things that a mediator really doesn't. Mediators mostly deal with property, uh, being split up, parent plans, and the child support issues that come up and child custody issues. A co-parent coach digs down into things like, okay, now I'm dealing with a new partner that my ex has. How do I come through this? Or the discipline styles are very different between us. What can I do to manage that? Or maybe social issues pop up with the child and they have different thoughts on what's allowed and what's not, or even extended family where maybe you've got a grandparent or an in-law that starts to cause problems. So those are all different. Yeah, right. It's like a maze. Those are all different topics that a co-parent coach gets down into to help someone working with those problems.
and making it as amicable, as easy as possible for sure.
Right. And that's really the bottom line. I really think of myself as helping them to design their co-parenting life and to make it, as you put, as easy and as amicable as we can.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, I mean, my kids are in their late 20s and early 30s, and I still have to manage things like, weddings and,
Right.
I found it just I just happened to have found my ex's will, and I'm going, "Wait, has he rewritten his will? Because he's remarried. Has he rewritten his will? Has he gotten those things? Are my kids still in there? There's
Right.
those kinds of questions that, I would want to know. I mean, just want to know for my kids' sake that they're covered. But, when you're a co-parent, it's never ending. It really
Yes.
is never ending.
It's for life.
It is. So you spent over 30 years, right, in the corporate setting, like we were talking about in that article earlier. What opportunities do you see where businesses can do a better job supporting divorcing parents in their ranks?
Yeah, so I would like to just say first that I think things have improved. I mean, I got divorced back in, oh my gosh, it's going to make me, this is going to reveal my age, but 99, 2000, right there.
Mhm.
And I can tell you that work from home, flex schedules, paid time off were not in existence then.
Right.
We finally got smarter and now we allow, paid time off versus sick time. I remember distinctly calling in when my child would get sick and saying, I'm sick because I couldn't be honest because there was no pay for me to take that time off. So those things have improved, which is a big step.
It is good.
But there's so much more. I would love to see co-parenting support programs offered by employers, um, right there in those EAP programs. Um, the other thing that I think that a lot of employers kind of miss the mark on is being proactive to make sure the employees even know what's available to them. I can tell you that when I left my last corporate job, I was starting this business. And I decided, well, before I leave, I want to see what my company is currently offering that, to see if maybe I could help them out after I left. And my gosh, I had to dig. It was like click, 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 10 levels deep in the intranet
A rabbit
site,
hole. A
right?
rabbit hole. Yep.
Yeah, and I finally uncovered some things, but I'm like, who's going to have the patience to do that? I did because that's me, tenacious like I am. But a lot of people would have long since given up. So I think both informing the employees that it's even out there, reminding them, hey, if you need help in these areas, these are the things you can tap into. And I think that can be done by the HR department. But I also think, as a former people manager myself, that those direct managers and supervisors can take some responsibility of making sure the employees know what's available to them and then
Absolutely.
making it right. And then making it easy in those systems for the person to access the
But
information.
it's literally sometimes just hidden beneath, like to your point, you end up digging and digging and digging to find these resources.
Right.
And
And they're making these huge investments, right, to in these resources.
and
And
they can't find them to use. And and in the case of divorce and those types of things, it's not like having a a benefit that's a discount tickets to Disney World, right? We're
right,
talking about something that can be very heavy and not necessarily the most fun. But
right.
I
Those
will
heavy topics.
I will say to both the company and to the employee that it's the most important.
Well, and it's extremely costly
If they
for if they don't provide it.
Agreed, agreed. So what are some other things that you think that they should do?
Well, I think I kind of mentioned that managers can be proactive and be knowledgeable yourself
Yep.
about what is available, and encourage your employees to be forthcoming and to leverage those resources that are available. Um, and make sure that you have an understanding of what situation your parent or what situation your employee is in, so that if they start to have issues and you understand it's this co-parenting dynamic that they're dealing with, that you can get them the type of resources, and you can also make sure they don't overcommit themselves or make unwise decisions based on where they're at currently. um, and I think if you don't already have it, it would be great to offer the employee some type of list, whether it's a list of books, magazines, websites, professionals, or any other type of resource that can assist them in managing their life. And even just the little simple things. Like if you have a company event every year, let's say it's a company picnic, company wide, and you have it at exactly the same week every year. I know you can't always accommodate this, but if you can alternate it a week,
Mhm.
that parent that's in a set schedule is going to miss every year, may have an opportunity to go if it were alternated. And there probably are other people in that situation. And lastly, I'd just say have a plan in place to manage safety concerns where divorced parents exist. Post that national domestic violence hotline, and that goes for all your employees. It really should be something readily available to them.
Agreed, 100%. I want to let anybody that's listening know that we actually, when you talk about having that list of books, magazines, websites, professionals, we have that for you. We can even help you develop a library at your workplace filled with books, filled with articles, filled with ideas on how they can get through this. So if you guys need a library of resources, I'm sitting here looking at a stack of books filled with the most amazing information written by some of the best experts in the business. So please reach out to us. We would love to have you have those books on hand, or at least the list of those books. So lastly, before we go, and I want to remind everybody, I'm going to be posting our link to our SHRM credits. And this has been such a great conversation. What challenges do blended families face that employers should probably consider and know about?
Well, so and I've been a step parent for 15 years, so I have firsthand knowledge of this one. Um, you wouldn't you would be shocked to know how difficult it is to just plan a family vacation, because you've got all these additional schedules to manage and all of these additional influences. Now suddenly there's another parent coming into play when we're talking about keeping commitments to schedules, and those sort of things can come back to the employment realm. I know that a lot of companies are making strides in offering domestic partner coverage, but I think those are the big companies that are primarily being able to tackle that. There is still there's still a big gap when it comes to domestic partner coverage, and even coverage for a domestic partner's children who live with the employee who works for you. So there's a gap there. And I would love to see an offer of blended family coaching services, or recommendations through that EAP program.
Agreed, 100%. This is an event that should be in every EAP. Divorce is the most costly operating expense that our listeners probably don't even know they have. So getting your employees this service is not only good for your employee, it is great for your company. When you have an employee who's normally really up here, absolutely unable to calm their brain down from the fear. I mean, when you're talking about your children and finances, those are the two things that people are fearful of the most. When you take and they have a plan, right? They have some direction on how they can manage their children. The absences go down. Their productivity skyrockets. And we can help your employees get out of up here so that the temperature in the room is calm. And I am begging you, call us. Let's talk about how we can add this to your EAP plan, because it's something that is, it's been easy to, overlook, or, there hasn't been a solution for divorce. So it was easy to say, you know what, it's none of my business, right? As an employer, this is just none of my business. But now it is your business. Divorce costs this country, between our government agencies and our corporations, over $300 billion a year in lost productivity. $300 billion, that's a war every day. And it's an easy fix. Do we take away 100% of it? No, because there are some situations that are beyond all of our control. But we can make a dent in that number. So it's a good fit for your employee, and it's a great fit for your business. Divorce, I hope that you can all start to see is that not only is it not your business, it is absolutely your business. So please reach out to us. Teresa, thank you so much for being with us today. Can you do me one last favor and just give everybody some contact information so that we can, if they should need to reach out to you, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my website is easy, teresaharlow.com. And if you misspell it, I think I've got several versions of that, but teresaharlow.com. And you can always reach out to me an email at info@teresaharlow.com. And I would love to speak to you, learn more about what your needs are.
You are awesome. Thank you, my dear, for being with us today.
Aw,
And
thanks.
Paulette, if you're listening, we missed you today, but we will be back next week. And next week, we are going to be talking, we do this every Thursday, Teresa. And next week, we're going to be actually talking about what we do and why this is so important for companies across the country to participate in and learn about how easy it is to solve. Really and truly, we've got the answers for you. So Teresa, thank you so much. I hope you have a great weekend, and we will see everybody next week at 1:00 Eastern time here on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks,
We'll see you next
Vicki.
time.